Top of the morning to you. It is a beautiful, early Friday here in Bodike. But I just wanted to make a little video. You know, you got a lot of hate in the world today. A lot of angry folks on both sides of the line. You know, you got people like myself who were raised, you know, I was raised to be fairly liberal, you know, even though, I was raised in Texas and Chicago. At the time when I was being raised in both, they were both very much conservative states and conservative cities. You know, Dallas, Chicago, yada, yada, yada. And I have been what you would call a liberal for as long as I can remember, at least where I used to fall on the the supposed graph or whatever the hell you want to call it, because it's so fucking out of whack now that someone like myself, who is obviously not a conservative, not an alt far right winger, and being called such things, because the Democratic Party went from being like here to way over here. Well, I'm still right here where the Democratic Party was like 10 years ago, before it went fucking batshit insane all the way to the left to where it's come out to the right. And, at the time, the right has now gone so far right, it's kind of come out on the left, and they've almost switched sides when it comes to their stance on morality and where they are in the culture wars, you know. And this is what happens. Don't let these politicians, these parties make you think that they're not two sides of the same coin, because they are. They're all corrupt, they're all self-serving. It just so happens that right now in history, that the conservatives, or what you could call conservatism, is falling on the morally objective side, while you have Democrats who are now super extreme in their political beliefs, falling on the morally objectionable side, you have such a, what's the word I'm looking for? You have such a drastic change that people like me all of a sudden got, turned into conservative right-wingers just for staying where we were and not following the extremism to the left, That's what I'm saying. I stayed where I am in my beliefs, in my practices, and somehow now I'm a right-winger? How the fuck did that happen? How the fuck did the right go so far right that it ended up back around on my side? And how the fuck did my side go so far to the left that they ended up on the other? How does that happen? Extremism, fascism. This is the thing about our societies. We turn things up to 11. We gotta go for the biggest, the baddest. Our spectacles have to be bigger than ever before. Why do you think every Marvel movie now has to have a giant, crazy action scene at the end? We've become desensitized to the spectacle. We become desensitized to these extremes, and so we just keep going further and further and further because we're so fucking numb as people. We've been exposed to just so much nonsense, so much noise, so much static from the ether. I mean, hell, I turn on YouTube, I turn on the news, I look at the social media platforms, I look at both sides of the argument, and I see on both sides they're fucking up. One a little more than the other, but they're fucking up. And that's how it's always been with these fucking assholes that are running our country that we live in. We're the little guy. I'm your average hardworking American. pays his taxes, goes and works his job, you know. I'm what makes up your fucking, your cultural base. You know, people like me. And what happened? What do we find? We find that we're in the middle of this freaking meat grinder. We're literally watching the fall of our civilization, the destruction of our cultural norms. You know, if there was ever a society on the precipice of oblivion, it's ours. It's modern Western, or I guess you call it postmodern Western culture. You know, and you see this in history a lot, where you have these extremes, where you have times of plentiful abundance and freedoms and idealistic living conditions. You know, you have these golden eras where you see prosperity, and you see and you see literacy go up, you see illiteracy go down, you see health conditions go up, you see diseases go down, you see warfare go down, you see. We've lived in a time where there's no Great War, there was no Great Depression. I think, what am I quoting? Fight Club, right? Where he goes, "We are the middle children of history," right? We've had no Great War, no Great Depression. The Great Depression is our lives. The war is cultural. It's with ourselves. And it's crazy when you hear it out loud, because it's true. We're a whole generation of spoiled, pampered people who've gotten everything we've wanted. Wasn't good enough, was it? Never is. See, this is the thing. Humans have a tendency to do best and to do better under stress, under strife. It's the most uncomfortable fucking state of mind that people can be in, so we avoid it at all costs, but it's those very unique characteristics to humanity that have made us such an important and influential part of this planet's ecosystem. There's a reason we're on the top of the food chain, and it's because that under pressure, we adapted, we survived, we found ways to populate and get to and creep into every crevice of this planet, and we built a world out of it. And that world is about to fall in on us because we're not doing anything with that ingenuity anymore. We're just stagnating, And what happens to great societies, great cultures, great cities, great nations, great empires when they stagnate, when they've hit the pinnacle? Where do they go? They go down, because there's nowhere else to go but down when you've hit the top. It's like this in relationships. It's like this in any situation you're in. When you're on top, you better enjoy it, because you don't stay on top. There's always a bigger fish. There's always an emergency. There's always something that's going to come and knock you off. And we're seeing the decline of our culture. And the thing is it's not just Western culture. It's humanity as a whole. We're having to resort to, and you'll see this in history, where you'll see, as I said, times of abundance, and then the fall, the crash, the rebound from, such great heights to such great lows. You see the Republic go from you see the Republic of Rome go from basically what amounts to a democratic republic to a dictatorship, what's it called? A heretical dictatorship. And you see this now. You see Western culture giving way to dictatorships, to, you know, even in, what's the word I'm looking for? What's it called? It's slipping my mind right now. Anyway, you know, you have places like Russia who pretend that they're not a dictatorship, even though they have been since Putin got in office. This is what I'm talking about. You have governments going back to fascist styles of governing their bodies. You know, it's a lot easier to manage resources when there's one person at the top, you know. But there's pros and cons to both sides of it. You know, we're at the point where our bureaucracy is working against us. Our ability to manage and organize things are actually now being used against the system that it was put in place to support. You know, at some point in time,
enough red tape to hang yourself.
There is such a thing as too much red tape, right? Like, it's good to have red tape. But when that's all you have is red tape, something's wrong. And that's where we are. We're a country wrapped in red tape. You know, we're a society wrapped up in red tape. You know, we're a culture wrapped up in red tape. You know? Just look at the culture wars. The fact that we even have a phrase called culture wars in our country is insane. You know what happened last time we had a culture war? It was called the Civil War. And guess what? It fucked shit up. And this is the thing, our country was young when it happened. It was still very, very pliable. It hadn't really set into what you could be called the United States yet. You know, it was still just a collection of, you know, confederated states that were loosely, you know, that they had formed the United States, but you have to understand, state powers were still way more potent back then. Federal government wasn't as much as well established. It was more about states governing themselves with an overall kind of blueprint from the federal government. You know, it was very experimental at the time, and it worked. And when something like the Civil War should have derailed our country, it actually helped establish the federal government, made it stronger, took powers away from the states and gave it to the federal government, made the federal government more powerful, made the president more powerful. It was situations like that that allowed the federal government to take the kind of control that it has, you know? So what do you think's gonna happen if we have another one? What do you think's gonna happen if this culture war escalates? If it goes up? Especially to us, the little guy. The average hardworking citizen, whether I be American, Yugoslavian, Russian, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, the little guy is going to be the one that gets stepped on. You know, we're going to be the ones that get you know, thrown into the freaking meat grinder, the thresher maw, you know? I mean, technically we kind of already are, you know? I mean, think about how the masses are being used in this culture war, right? Think about how people are being made to take sides whether they even realize it or not. You know, I don't support either side. I think both the Republican and Democratic Party are fucking up. And I think we should get some new parties, honestly. There was a time when there was more than just two parties in the United States. But there has never been one time where those two parties didn't hold power. There have always been at least two solid parties in American history, where they were Democrat or Republican or whatever. They've had different names over the course of our country's history. But ultimately, you had to choose one or the other. Whichever political power, it was usually, you know, one of two prominent political powers in the United States. But there used to be more than just two to choose from. Did you know you could actually make your own party? They don't tell you that because you don't have fucking billions of dollars from fucking, you know, these, you know, corporations that they throw at you. You know, If I had a super PAC with a couple $1 billion in it, damn sure I'd start my own political party and I would stick it to these fucking assholes that are ruining our fucking country and our way of life. Because that's what we need. The thing that made America such a great place was its pliability, was its ability to adjust and react in such a way that didn't allow it to be so rigid, you know. Its flexibility was its strength and has been its strength. But we're such an inflexible nation now, you know. You're either Democrat or you're Republican. It's been like that for 50, 60 years now, you know, maybe longer. That's not the way it's supposed to be. You should have an option between more than just those two fucking awful parties, but we don't anymore because that's the way they've set it up. You know? I mean, I've got friends of mine who treat me like I'm some kind of evil asshole because I am not okay with their crazy extremist democratic bullshit. They're saying that, you know, I'm being called right-wing, I'm being called alt-right, I'm being called Trump supporter. I didn't vote for Trump. I'm a registered Democrat, yo. I've never voted Republican in my life. Definitely not voting Democrat, though, because they're a bunch of fucking idiots right now. And they have been for a good 10 years. You know? And the Republican Party isn't that much better. They just happen to be on the not so fucking crazy side right now, but that doesn't mean they're gonna stay there. I am old enough to remember a time when the Republican Party fucked us over. I remember what Bush did to our fucking country. What his influence is still doing. So don't let these fucking politicians get up and say, oh, well, we're so much more right and virtuous than they are. Because none of them are. They're all a bunch of crooks. They're all a bunch of criminals. They're all a bunch of self-serving, righteous, freaking better than thou, like, soulless monsters. I mean, don't even get me started. I could go off about so many of them. But anyway, this rant has gone on a little longer than it should, but I just kind of wanted to talk about, like, what's happening, you know, the craziness in our world that we have to see every freaking day, you know? You know, it's frankly ridiculous. You know, I pay my taxes. I work hard. I do what I'm supposed to do. And I still get treated like I'm somehow a piece of shit because of political beliefs or yada 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 or whatever. You know, the moment we stop trying to find reasons to hate each other and remember that we're all in this together and that if we let these people divide us, they will. You know, it's a lot easier to control people who don't know who their enemies are. Right? But anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. Have a happy Friday. Y'all take care of yourselves. Happy MGTOW to all of you gentlemen out there going your own way. Keep it up. Don't let these folks knock you off your path. Stay true to what you believe, what you want. And remember, guys, we don't have to be at each other's throats. We don't have to fight. You know? We have people on Capitol Hill telling us why we should hate each other. Why the other side is so bad. Stop listening to these awful people, man. They don't care about you. Hey, you LGBTQ folks out there, the left doesn't give a fuck about you. They don't care about your rights or your opinions or any of that crap they say. They use that to get your votes. You know? Hey, guess what out there, all you right-wingers who think the fucking Republican Party is gonna save the day? They're not. They're not. They're gonna do what they always have. It's gonna flip-flop. We're gonna go from 8 years Democrat to 8 years Republican, or 4 years Democrat to 4 years Republican. This stuff is awful. this nonpartisan, we are the United States of America. Our country isn't perfect. Our government isn't perfect, but it's damn sure better and has been better than many others in this world's history. Hell, in our own sphere of influence, in modern and postmodern politics, our country has still managed to somehow not be as fucked up as the rest, even though they're plenty fucked up. But this is the world we live in. Do we want to leave our children the world that we grew up in, or something worse? Because we're not making the future better for our children right now. We are making it worse. We're gentrifying, we're emasculating, we're confusing, we're telling them that they're victims. We're not empowering them to be better people. We're depowering them. You know? Anyway, you folks have a great day. Much love. And try to stay safe out there. You never know when someone might need your help, or vice versa. Peace out.